Welcome to the Brookside Side Chat. I'm your host, Pojo. Today I'm joined by two fantastic people, a guest and a co-host. Please introduce yourselves.
So I'm the guest. I'm Connor.
I'm just your co-host, Brooklyn.
So, as school starts up again, we decided to do a side chat on a very near and dear topic to one of our guests, the issues that the American education system faces. And this is grade school, middle school, and high school. Would you like to start us off?
Yeah, so I am working on becoming a high school chemistry teacher. Being a part of this education system, I can look at it, see some of its flaws, but it's also great to get some opinions from outside perspectives. Mm-hmm. I'll start off with major thing is education is devalued.
Okay.
A big portion of our society is built upon the foundation of education. People need to know how to read and write to be able to live in a proper way and proper manner to be able to communicate to others in and around them. Without education, we really would be nowhere.
Yeah, because that's one of the defining traits of humans, is their intelligence and their ingenuity and whatnot.
But there's a huge, if you look at the education system, it's devalued, yes, but it also slightly deserves to be that way for how it's set up at the moment.
Okay.
High schools are built now based off of what they used to be, which was turning out a productive member to work in a factory.
Okay.
They teach you the basic things you need to know to be able to work in a factory. They teach you part of your history. They teach you part of science. They teach you how to read and write. They don't focus as much on what you want. They focus on what society needed when high schools were really booming.
Wait, so just to clarify, high schools are teaching you how to read and write? Or is that just more past the basic, oh, I can read and I can write, to like a intermediate to advanced level?
High schools,
and this is just for clarification.
Yeah, high schools go from that intermediate to higher. Well, I'll go lower to mid, because you know how to write a paper, you know how to do a research paper, but you don't learn all the skills you need for a research paper. You don't learn everything you need to know about grammar and proper ability with that. If you did, nobody would get there, and there wrong, or your, and your.
I think society just needs a big old spelling lesson because there's just so much grammar lessons.
And this just hit me, and this is just real quick. Is this public, private, or both?
This would be public. Focusing solely on public schools.
Okay.
Private schools have their own problems, but most of what I'll be talking about, and I hope what we'll be talking about, is private schools. Or, not private schools, public schools. My apologies. So, right now, people need to look at school and really think about what is needed now.
Okay.
Yes, you need some of those basic skills. Yes, you need to know history, but for the most part, a lot of people don't need to know advanced calculus. Most people...
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but so right now I'm just trying to get the surface level problems. Mm-hmm. So if you don't mind, I'll ask Brooklyn real quick what his thoughts are, and we'll continue this.
Yeah, I can go on for days and days.
For sure. Because I mean I agree. There are problems.
I think.
But real quick, Brooklyn, your surface level, and then we'll get back to more in depth, skin below the skin.
So, agree with the whole idea of like, not a lot of people want to go into the calculus, but I do think having that like knowledge of like that advanced calculus is probably more fitting towards the idea of what we as a society kind of need, because unfortunately we need like engineers. We need your engineers, we need your scientists, and we kind of have that need towards like that STEM field because of like the amount of research that's going into it, and like how much we try to build as like ourselves into like, you know, science and advancement.
So if I can take the last speaking rights real quick, and we'll get back. Well, you're next, don't worry. From the sounds of it, it sounds like school is to make you more into a jack of all trades but a master of none, simply so you can dip or a taste of these individual fields like writing, science, etc. And then feel like it's college where you more pursue those avenues that you found more interesting. But moving back to your point that you're making earlier.
What I was going to clarify is I think that should be moved down a bit. Is your
to like grade school?
Your grade school and your middle school should be dipping your toes into different subjects, and high school should be more in depth in what you want to pursue, in what interests you.
Because you see a lot of the times with like college like majors and stuff like that, people join one major only to like leave in like a year or so, or you know.
Which, I mean, I can attest to. I essentially got one class away from getting a biology major, and then decided this wasn't for me.
Yeah. So
just to add a support example there.
Being able to focus on what you need, what you want out of your education is gonna keep people more interested. It's gonna keep them more involved, because you look at a classroom and you can tell which kids care.
Yeah.
Which kids are there because they have to be, and which kids are there because they want to be. Forcing kids to take classes that they're gonna hate, that they're going to look at and go, why the heck am I in this? I'm a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Yeah, but I'm much more interested in how do I write a fascinating story.
And don't get me wrong, you have a point there, but I feel like part of that, though, is just broadening the horizon of the child. Because let's say at the start of the class they don't like it. Towards the middle or end of the class they find, oh, I actually have a talent for this and I'm really gifted in, let's say, math or science or etc. I feel like it's to push you out of your comfort zone.
Speaking as someone who has been directly involved in seeing those classes and teaching those classes, likelihood that a student is going to start off a class going, I don't actually enjoy this, and then come back around to it is pretty low. If someone sees something, if someone tries something, and they start off not enjoying it, they're gonna continue with that non-enjoyment, non-paying attention, and it's gonna fuel it. You know, you start off a class, you don't like it, so you stop paying attention for a couple of days, and then you don't know what's going on, which makes you feel dumb, which...
Yeah, I'm totally not blaming teachers on this, because some kids are like that.
Yeah.
But
it's curriculum with like the actual...
it also depends on the teacher.
It very much does.
Which, don't get me wrong, I feel like most teachers, and this is just a side note, if they become a teacher, they're doing it not because they want to become rich or etc. They're doing it because they actually have a want or a desire to be a teacher.
Yeah. At this point, especially with science teachers.
Why science and why specifically science?
So, to be able to teach a specific subject, like a specific science subject, you're actually encouraged to major in that subject, in that field.
Really?
Yeah. So, most of the time, these people major in the field and can get paid 3, 4, 5 times the amount that they would while teaching, while still doing something that they love. And so instead of going into teaching, they can go right into lab work. or go right into the subject that they want. Really takes someone who enjoys teaching, who wants to teach, to become a teacher in the science field.
Okay. What are your thoughts on this?
I think with like certain subjects, it's good to be having that like, you know, background, good to be having like, you know, just the kind of gist of stuff. It might be a little good to get a little bit some of your broader like coursework and just make sure like, you know, you go a little with your curriculum. But I think there is one kind of subject or a couple of subjects that we really didn't talk about so far in this podcast. And one thing is like your life skills. What I've here,
like home ec, real quick.
Yeah, like home rec.
Home ec. You don't want to wreck homes.
Home wrecker class. That's what.
Hey, that might be a demolition class for people who are interested in construction.
Sure.
Anyways,
sure.
back to you.
But no, I was thinking of like classes like taxes. Like I hear like this constant argument of like, I got this and this and that. I didn't get anything resourceful from like education, like and like maybe just some simple like.
So like life skills.
Life skills, yeah. Like or better yet, a career readiness seminar, or something along the lines of sex education as well, because you know there is like a high STD rate in certain areas of the U.S. and you need to be educated on that stuff. And parents are probably never gonna tell their kids like, "Hey, grab that willy." So,
I mean,
somebody had to say it.
I think with the sex education, I've been privileged to go to private school where they were actually fairly open, being like, this is what the anatomy is, this is what an STD is, and etc.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it's like with public schools, so good, bad, or...
It depends on the state.
Okay.
Nebraska, for me, I was lucky. I went to a decently public school, and we got the same education of here's the anatomy, this is what happens during puberty, here's what an STD is, here's how it's transmitted, the statistics for STD prevention and birth control. But there are also a lot of states and a lot of systems that encourage abstinence-only teaching.
Oh, yeah.
Which doesn't work. Plain and simple.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. Abstinence for prevention of STDs,
yeah,
it does work. As for, you know, telling a hormone-filled teenager that, or preteen.
It's just like a parent kind of telling their kids, "Hey, don't touch that thing," and it's like they're gonna do it. It's like,
well, okay, yeah, no, and I completely agree. Moving back, I have a question for both of you. It's no secret that in America, trade schools are really publicized because most people are expected to go to college right after high school. Do you think trade schools should be more publicized or...
Absolutely. A huge thing right now is, and if you look at it right now, for the majority of jobs, you need a college education. It's no longer you just need a high school education. A lot of jobs nowadays in our society have said you need a college education, which makes college the new high school.
Oh yeah, and a lot of these like professional jobs require more than just a bachelor's.
Yeah, so I would absolutely love to see trade schools be encouraged. You see a lot of kids, a lot of high schoolers going through not paying attention to their classes because it's not what they want to do. They love cars. They love building something. Now, a lot of teachers do look at the student, know them, and encourage them, but education as a whole should be about finding what a child likes, what someone enjoys, before what they're good at.
I completely agree, but my thought here, and this is just playing devil's advocate, is when you remember when you were younger teenager.
I blocked that part of my life out.
Well, yes, but the point I'm getting at is preferences, what you like, what you dislike, changes almost weekly.
It can.
And this isn't for everyone. This is for some people.
I would never have known that I loved 3D printing. when I was younger.
Yeah, well, because it wasn't.
It wasn't super prevalent, but it can change. What you enjoy can change. But what I am suggesting is education needs to be rebuilt from the ground up.
Okay. Which actually leads me into my next question for both of you. Real quick, just again, skin level, because this is pretty much the entirety of this conversation.
Yeah.
What needs to be changed to improve it?
Well, first things first is you see a lot of classrooms and a lot of subjects are the old way of teaching. The teacher used to be the only one with access to the textbook that would go up and lecture. Nowadays, students have all kinds of access to extra lessons and all kinds of access to those books. So, way that these lessons are taught need to be changed, and that starts with the teacher. Needs to be a better encouraged profession to go into.
Okay.
Huge problem right now is teachers are underappreciated and underpaid, and you don't get a ton of really good ones.
Okay, so with that, let's move to you, Brooklyn. What skin level, what needs to be changed?
I think just having like a better focus, having like, you know, those last 4 years of like, you know, not your intermediate like education, but like your higher level education should be kind of focused on like trying to go towards like your career.
And this is high school or?
High school, yes.
Okay.
As well as that, I think just maybe a lot more job shadowing could be very well used for like, you know, introducing these students to like, you know, their field so they can kind of get a better read. Because I think the best education experience I've had is, you know, my internship. Like, some people learn better just in like different methods. It's not just, you know, your simple lecture, which, not to bash teachers or anything, it's just the students themselves. It's nothing with like how you present like stuff. It's some people are like tactical learners, I believe is the terminology. So try and like experiment, trying to like figure out what kind of like kids like best, and I think that will be the best way to kind of get that course and what gives them more value. Also kind of preparing them with those different other like education courses, and maybe learning some other kind of generic courses could be helpful. Like I know in my college experience, I had a course in like computer programming, which even though my major wasn't anything related to that, it was interesting to learn, and it is good like outsourcing tool. So try and get like ahead of the market before it gets ahead of them.
Another gigantic problem is,
Last one.
yeah, everything has to be dumbed down to the lowest common denominator right now. Everybody has to pass, no matter what.
In
Education.
Most general
and
education.
below college.
Yeah. With that, you have to make sure every student passes, which means you have to basically teach the subject as best you can to the people who are the least, not qualified, not enjoyment, but weakest in that subject, which excludes the people with the higher intelligence and higher ability in that subject.
So it won't push those people with
Yeah.
the talent.
So the kid that misses like, I don't know, every single class except for like one, like you're trying to like, you know, make sure he passes even though he hasn't put.
You joke about that. But
I know. It's
No, it's
that's an actual thing.
yeah.
it's
Well, with that said, but unfortunately that's all the time we have.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for coming out. Thank you for co-host Brooklyn and the guest Connor for coming out. It means the world to myself and the listeners.
appreciate you for having me on.
No problem. Anytime. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe. Once again, have a good day. Hopefully you enjoyed. Have a good day.